We have Mr. Devesh Agarwal, aviation expert. Mr. Agarwal, thank you for waiting patiently. I want to understand from you what happens now. Nivriti Mohan on ground saying that at least her sources are telling her that the black box has been recovered. Now, where does the black box go? Will it go to the US? Will it go to Boeing? Will it be here in India? And what are the timelines for this investigation? Initial reports need to be filed in 30 days, but what is the process that gets followed from here on?
Hi, good morning. Thank you for having me. Uh, so there are two black boxes. They're called black boxes, but actually they are kind of bright orange in color
Right.
for visibility. And one is what's called the cockpit voice recorder, and the second one is the DFDR, digital flight data recorder. And on a absolutely latest generation aircraft like the 787, it will be what is called solid state, which will be similar to our what is the memory on our phones or on SSD drives kind of thing. Is of course a much more robust memory, and it is encased heavily encased and designed to sustain, survive fires and things like that.
Sure.
uh, the black boxes can be read in India, but if there is any kind of damage to them, please understand, we had almost 125,000 liters, and people are still not putting their heads around it. That's almost equal to 10 tanker loads of, fuel. It's a lot of fuel to burn. So if there is any kind of damage, then the US NTSB, the
Right.
National Transportation Safety Board, which is a completely independent agency, sort of similar to the Indian, what is called AAIB, Air
Right.
Accidents Investigation Board, they have a lot of specialists. And Boeing being an aircraft made in the United States, they will be the primary agency in terms of, other than, of course, the AAIB, which will be the lead agency. They will be an agency that provides immense levels of technical support. They will take the black boxes to Washington and decode it. Chances are that the black boxes should be intact, but if there is any damage, they will have to take it to the US, where they'll need more specialized equipment. And I, if I, the closest timeline I would urge listeners and viewers to recall is the recent accident that happened at Washington, D.C.,
That's right.
when, an American Airlines plane
Went into the
collided.
Potomac.
Yeah, yeah, but it collided with a military helicopter.
Right.
So I would expect, and this would be the best thing, and it would be a learning lesson, and for us all to see how well both the ministry and Air India share information with the public, because this is a time to build. I would not say the word. Yeah, it is a way to build trust. We saw it when AirAsia crashed. Tony Fernandez was, actively sharing information with
That's right.
everybody. So people get a sense of reassurance. When people tend to, oh, this is secret, that is that, not this, that, this, that. That's when people start going, what are they're trying to hide, kind of thing. That natural thought comes in the mind. So I expect within a week, next 3 to 4 days, we should get some preliminary information.
Okay.
It not say too much, and definitely not the reason for the cause of this crash. I heard in your intro you were talking about the engines,
Right.
and the the Air India Dreamliners are powered by the General Electric Gen X engine. It's
That's right.
GE, and it's the same thing that I think almost over half the world's airlines use the Gen X engine. Some of the airlines use the Rolls-Royce engines, and the sort of predecessor to the Gen X engine was the GE90, and the GE90 engines are used on every modern 777 in the world. It is a source engine. There is no second engine choice. So these are incredibly reliable engines. I was seeing in some of the pilots forums and various other things, people saying dual engine failure. It's not even 1 in a billion chance. It's not even 1 in a trillion chance. It's basically close to impossible. So I think, instead of speculating about this thing, yes, there is a loss of lift. We can clearly make out there's a loss of lift. Why that has happened, that will take time. If I may say something, there's a concept for when they do aviation accidents, they call it the Swiss cheese model. There's a particular type of cheese that is made in Switzerland called the Emmentaler.
Right.
and it's a cheap lot of holes, but the holes are, all over the place. For an accident to occur, all the
Stay
holes
with
have.
me, Mr. Agarwal. We are also getting live visuals of Prime Minister Modi, who is now at the crash site. He is inspecting the remains of the ill-fated
तो
AI171
प्रधानमंत्री नरेंद्र
Dreamliner
मोदी ने
jet, which did crash in Ahmedabad yesterday. He's at the crash site, and these are the visuals that we are getting. Well, of course, these are visuals of the crash site, and here Prime Minister Modi now with a group of experts, perhaps briefing him on what went down yesterday. Of course, we have been seeing visuals and bringing those visuals to you. But at the crash site, remains of the aircraft, there are some parts, some material that is lying scattered. And of course, the debris is all around, not just of the aircraft, but also the buildings that have been charred by the plumes of fire that we saw, of course, in visuals yesterday. Firefighters have gone ahead and doused the fire, it seems now completely. Till late last evening, there was still some fire visible inside the buildings, but fire seems to have been completely doused. There are bulldozers there trying to perhaps remove the scraps of the aircraft, perhaps in a bid to recover the black box or any other remains of the aircraft. We also have the aviation minister walking beside Prime Minister Modi. Prime Minister Modi there looking at the remains of the aircraft and the structural damage to the building, which also resulted in loss of life of people who were inside that medical college building at the time that the Dreamliner jet operated by Air India, the AI171 from Ahmedabad to London, crashed inside the building. Well, the tail of the aircraft, as we can see, is still dangling on that building. Well, it hasn't yet been removed, but I'm sure once the investigative teams are putting together the aircraft, trying to investigate what really went down on that ill-fated flight, the tail of the aircraft would also be removed. Meanwhile, buildings, some we were told were under construction, so thankfully not too many residents expected to be in that building at that time, but some workers could have been in the buildings under construction, which also have been charred by fire. And remember, the fire, the explosion was humongous because it's more than 1 lakh kilograms worth of fuel on the aircraft, which had to undergo a 9-hour flight non-stop from Ahmedabad to Gatwick Airport in London. And the fuel, with a single spark, with the amount of fuel that the aircraft was carrying, can cause a massive explosion. We heard some of our guests yesterday say that it is a ticking time bomb. Every aircraft in the air carrying so much fuel is pretty much a ticking time bomb. And that's exactly the tragic end that we saw to AI171's journey to London, cut short just outside the perimeter of the airport yesterday with this horrible crash. Well, Mr. Agarwal continues to be here with me, but I want to also bring to our viewers a brief history of things that have not gone down too well for the Boeing, the aircraft maker, US aircraft maker Boeing. Well, the Boeing 787 Dreamliner that crashed yesterday is the pride of the US company's catalog for long-distance planes. Now, it is a fuel-efficient wide-body aircraft able to transport up to 330 people. Now, after first entering service in October of 2011 with Japan's All Nippon Airways, 2,598, that's almost 2,600 orders of the plane have been made by more than 80 airlines around the world. There are as many as 889 still awaiting delivery. Now, its appeal is its lightweight structure, half of which is made from composite material, allowing it to burn up to 20% less fuel over long distances than older equivalently sized passenger planes. Now, it can also be used for point-to-point services, meaning it can fly direct to a destination instead of relying on a hub system used by heavier aircraft. Now, Boeing says the use of the 787 has opened up as many as 180 such point-to-point routes, more than the 80 initially banked upon. Now, Boeing's most serious issues surfaced after the 2018 and 2019 crashes of the Boeing 737 MAX fleet, where an MCAS safety feature was installed, but lack of pilot training on overriding the computer's command led to the death of hundreds in two separate MCAS-related Boeing 737 MAX crashes. Now, the fleet was subsequently grounded until pilot training was upgraded. Now, then came Boeing's program for the Dreamliner, which also suffered several setbacks, including repeated and costly delivery suspensions between 2021 and 2023, mainly due to assembly faults and manufacturing quality issues. Now, take our viewers to last year when in the month of January 2024, a door plug blew out of a Boeing flight mid-air in the US, resulting again in the halting of production lines for finding the root cause of the problem and its fix. Now, Boeing also saw several rounds of factory workers going on strike, asking for better wages and a change in management as well last year, when CEO David Calhoun was replaced by Kelly Ortberg in the month of August last year. Now, the U.S. Federal Aviation Administration ended up reinforcing quality assurance checks and inspections on the production lines. Now, in April this year, the FAA authorized Boeing to step up its production pace to make 7 planes a month from 5 previously. Now, in the year 2024, that's last year itself, there was also a whistleblower case. Sam Selepor, who worked at Boeing for nearly 2 decades, had in fact accused the company of putting profit over safety and retaliating against him by the raised concerns by involuntarily transferring him to a different program. Now, he later told the US Senate about structural problems in the Dreamliner model and claimed small gaps and improper assembly could cause early wear and possible structural failure. Boeing had then released a detailed defense of its aircraft, claiming it is fully confident in the Dreamliner. Now, then came the Boeing Starliner case that took Sunita Williams and Butch Wilmore to the International Space Station last year on a short trip, which ended up with the astronauts being stranded in space for as many as 9 months because of technical issues with the Boeing Starliner. It was eventually Elon Musk's SpaceX Dragon that brought them back. And then, of course, we saw yesterday's horrific Air India Flight 171 that crashed in Ahmedabad. Boeing stocks have plummeted as much as 5% in trade yesterday. Well, Devesh Agarwal continues to be with me. Mr. Agarwal, my final question to you this morning. Is it time, until at least the preliminary investigations are through, that Boeing should go ahead and ground all Dreamliner aircraft across the world?
No, Kartik, and before we go forward, you used one term to which I take a very strong objection to. You said every aircraft is a ticking time bomb because of the fuel it carries. Sorry. This is something which is a pet peeve of mine. I really wish media does not indulge in what I call scaremongering. That was a wrong statement.
This is something that aviation experts like
No, I'm
yourself
sorry.
mentioned on our
I
channel
do not
yesterday.
accept you.
We're just
Sir, you may
reporting
like
on
to
that
take
and
a
not
picture,
really
but I'm
casting our
sorry.
own opinion here.
That is not something I would urge you not to do it. And
Point
I'm
taken,
very
it's not
sorry.
our opinion, it's of aviation experts who were on our channel
No,
live
sir.
yesterday.
No
saying
aviation
this.
expert worth his salt will ever turn around and tell you aircraft are ticking time bombs.
Sure, Mr. Agarwal, that's your view, but there's a counter view that we had. But my pointed question to you, in the interest of time right now, is it time for the sake of passenger safety for Boeing to ground all Dreamliner aircraft jets?
The Dreamliner is a very safe aircraft. There are over 1,200 of them that have already been delivered and are flying. In fact, if you go to a site called Flight Radar 24, you can put in a filter and say 787 and just see the number of 787s in the air right now. Airlines are not fools. They're not going to put $200, $300 million on each aircraft, and many of them have got hundreds in their fleets. They're not going to put that kind of investment on an unsafe aircraft. That I can assure the whole traveling world.
Right, but until the cause of the crash is known, Mr. Agarwal, until we know whether it was an engine failure, whether it was a mechanical failure, is it worth risking more passengers in the air flying the Dreamliner, presuming at this stage, and only presuming at this stage, that the crash that happened yesterday had something to do with a technical snag in the aircraft?
Exactly. So let us not speculate. It could be, as I explained earlier itself, the Swiss cheese model. It is never a single point of failure that causes a crash. It is a series of actions and events. It could be mechanical failure. It could be electrical failure. It could be human failure. It could be weather. It could be fuel. How do you know the fuel was not contaminated? It is a wild speculation. But I'm saying, so it is not good to speculate. And definitely this is not a situation. If it was something like, as you said, the 737 MAX, MCAS, of course, that's a horrific, period in not just Boeing's history, but in human history.
That's right.
That is, well, guess
But
what?
eventually, it did
Yeah,
lead to the grounding of the 737 MAX fleet, did it
absolutely
not? So
agreed.
the point
And
is that should we wait
if you
for
recall,
more potential issues to surface before a decision on grounding a variety
uh,
of aircraft is taken?
first, let us, even if we wait about 15 days, the people will have a reasonably decent idea as to what happened and why it happened. They may
Sure.
not, they may require 2 years to come up with an absolutely detailed report to, which will be used as the learning experience. But when it comes to, at least let us give them 15 days to find out
All
what
right.
exactly where things are happening. That is where they are going to have to this thing. See, if you recall, in 2013, the Dreamliner had issues with batteries, and
Right.
the worldwide fleet was immediately grounded.
Right.
The regulators, governments, airlines are not fools.
Sure.
Air India is on the hook for 1.8 crores for every passenger. I'm still thinking, who is going to announce compensation for those poor 75 students who were just eating lunch?
That's right. Well, Mr. Agarwal, we are
Everybody has
completely
focused on
out
the
of time.
compensation
I'm
for,
sorry, I'll have to cut you short. We are completely out of time here. But the word coming in from Mr. Devesh Agarwal is that let's not hurry into prompting an action to go ahead and ground the Dreamliners just as yet.